are united in diversity. We are very heterogeneous in our opinion.
We are doing this in our open democracies, discussing this all open and loud, and I'm not for that.
What is European Union? What is freedom? How we learn together.
The obvious question is, what is the EU doing? What is our plan?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of Politico's Healthcare Summit. I'm Sarah Wheaton, host of the EU Confidential podcast, and these days, food and agriculture reporter. I used to be a health policy reporter here at Politico, so I'm really feeling back at home here. I'm glad you made it again. I think traffic was even worse today than it was yesterday, so thanks for being one of the early birds. We're here at our 10th edition of this summit, and it wouldn't be possible without the support of our leading partners, AstraZeneca, Haleon, MedTech Europe, and Sanofi. And our presenting partners, FPA, Johnson & Johnson, Lilly, and Sandoz. Thank you again. And now, please give a round of applause for my colleague and co-MC, Helen Collis, Politico's health editor. Morning.
Good morning.
So Helen, as we've been saying, this is our 10th edition. You know, some of the debates, gotta be honest, feel pretty familiar over the years. Others are brand new. So Helen, what is different this time around?
So you're right, a lot of the themes do have are similar underlying themes that haven't really changed over the last decade, but they seem to be reframed in slightly different language today. So for example, we've been talking about how to incentivize industry to develop much needed medicines and therapies that are also affordable for healthcare systems. But today that's got a very different sort of geopolitical framing or trade framing or health security framing to get the right balance right. And this is really kind of creating a bit of urgency for policymakers to get the right balance. As I just mentioned, health security is very much a big theme today in our health policy discussions to solve problems such as ensuring patients can have access to the right medicines and solving drug shortages problems and devices shortages, trying to curb antimicrobial resistance, and of course, preparing for the next health crisis. And also the security theme is very much feeding into the funding problems that the health systems are facing as well. Many policymakers are now arguing that without healthy populations, countries can't have a healthy workforce, a healthy economy, a healthy military. And therefore the money for defense, for example, should go towards some of these health security measures. But of course, we have also got conversations happening today that we didn't have 10 years ago because of the pace and change of new technology. And I'm thinking especially about artificial intelligence here and what impact that's really having around health systems in trying to see where it can create opportunities and efficiencies for them.
Okay, and so what is on the agenda here in the room today?
Yep, so today we're going to be starting off with an interview with Frank van den Broeke, the Deputy Prime Minister and Health and Social Affairs Minister in Belgium. We'll find out if Europe has got the right approach to AI in healthcare. We're going to look at whether the EU is taking the mental health crisis seriously enough, as well as issues around climate change health threats as well. And we'll discuss the impact of those geopolitics on industry's trade and investment decisions.
Okay, great, and thanks for the preview, Helen. Indeed, you'll be back shortly to interview Minister van den Broeke. But first, an introduction by Ruud Dobber, Executive Vice President and President for Biopharmaceuticals Business Unit at AstraZeneca.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back here at the Politico Healthcare Summit. I was here 2 years ago, and I stood here, and Europe was really at a crossroads at that time. We were emerging from the pandemic and looking ahead to a new political term with a shared drive to rebuild resilience, reimagine care, and recognize that health is not only a public good, but an economic necessity. Today, again, we are at another crossroad of a different kind. We're living through one of the most exciting periods in medical science, with innovative medicines keeping people healthier and new modalities poised to transform or even cure once fatal diseases. Two examples. Antibody drug conjugates have the potential to replace traditional chemotherapies. And cell therapy could deliver life-changing treatments to patients suffering from immune-mediated diseases and more devastating cancers like leukemia. And those are just two examples. But for the potential of new medicines to be realized, they must get to the patients who need them. And in Europe, falling investments in health and life sciences is threatening to undermine progress. So it's now time to redress the balance. The global center for medical innovation is clearly shifting. Policy changes in the United States, from drug pricing reforms to tariffs, are challenging long-standing assumptions about where R&D is funded. And the United States is incentivizing investments over Europe. At the same time, global competition is accelerating and Europe is losing its competitive power. Europe's share of global pharma R&D has dropped 25% in the past 20 years, while between 2010 and 2022, China's R&D growth was 5 times that of the European Union. And it is not just a growing imbalance of investment in innovation, but one of access. Barriers to diagnosis, fragmented systems, and outdated access models mean innovation often stops short of the people who need it most. The United States has long spent at least double the share of GDP on innovative medicines compared to Europe. Now it's calling on other major economies to contribute more fairly. Only 40% of new medicines reach Europe versus 85% in the United States. European patients wait 2 years longer for new cancer medicines, a very clear, stark access gap. Governments across Europe must recognize that health is a priority and a responsibility which we cannot afford to lose. At the same time, we know that delivering better healthcare pays dividends to patients, health systems, societies, and economies. Across developed countries, studies show new medicines have driven over 70% of gains in life expectancy. In 2022, 1.1 million deaths in the European Union could have been prevented through better access to effective interventions, including medicines. If we treat medical innovation as an investment, not a cost, the returns are extraordinary. Every euro invested in healthcare can deliver €2.50 in economic benefit, potentially 2.4 trillion across Europe by 2014. And science has never been stronger. When patients receive the care that experts recommend, outcomes can be really transformative. By simply following the clinical guidelines, we can prevent and reduce acute events like heart attacks, kidney failure, strokes, and lung exacerbations. And this will result in fewer hospitalizations, longer, healthier lives, and less strain on our overstretched healthcare systems. Study after study clearly shows that across different diseases, delivering expert-recommended care and treating diseases more effectively even reduce overall costs. But equally, I want to recognize that there are examples of European countries working to address these challenges. Recently, Germany introduced policies which incentivized clinical trial recruitment in return for lower profit clawbacks on the medicine when ultimately approved. This enables German patients to get earlier access to innovative medicines, makes Germany a more competitive and attractive place to develop medicines, and ultimately supports greater adoption of pharmaceutical innovation. But these policies are inconsistently applied across Europe, and as a European, I believe we need to change this mindset. So why do we believe access to innovation medicines should be a political priority? The rising burden of disease, cancer, cardiovascular, renal, metabolic, and respiratory condition is placing increasing pressure on health systems and economies. As populations age, this challenge will intensify. The number of people over 60 is projected to double by 2050. Many European governments are proposing to raise the retirement age to manage state pension spending. But it is the very people who are being asked to work for longer who are at a risk of an increased risk of these diseases. 2 years ago, our ask was to rebuild after the COVID crisis. Now it's time to adopt a mindset and to shift to address these challenges we face. With the growing burden of chronic diseases and a rapidly aging population, Europe must act now to step up funding for innovation and medicines, protecting the health of its citizens, ensuring patient access, and securing economic gains. I firmly believe that our great continent has the tools, the science and the knowledge. What we need now is coordinated action to ensure Europe is where the next generation of medical breakthroughs begins and delivers for all. Thank you so much, and I wish you a wonderful symposium. Thank you.